Hello and welcome to Recalibrate Your Life. With us today we have Mike Wolf. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Alan. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I
Thanks for having
appreciate it, and thanks for working with us in the new format as we're working out the kinks with our video as well as audio for our radio program, Recalibrate Your Life.
It's always fun to be the guinea pig.
Yes, and thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I feel like one myself. I'm not sure if I have the lighting right. I don't know if I'm looking enough at the camera, but we'll work all that out later.
We'll give it our
Uh,
best.
for the time being, the topic of today is trying to see if there is a direct correlation between monetary success and happiness. But before we get to that point, let's begin with your background. For those that are not familiar with you, which is not that many because of your successes in real estate businesses, but let's get into your background and then we'll continue with the format.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, let's see. Shall we? I'll go way back in time.
Sounds good?
And once upon a time, in another life, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I'm from Calgary, Canada. And here in Calgary, at the University of Calgary, there's no pre-law program. So I had to get a degree in something else first before I could go into law. And so I went and got my psychology degree. And originally thought, okay, once I get my degree, I'm going to apply to law school, and that's going to be my life. But as luck would have it, I basically got my degree, but I had a whole bunch of student loans, and I decided, well, you know what, I'm going to pay these off before I go to law school, and I wanted to get them all behind me. So I basically got a job at the phone company where a friend of mine, his mother was a manager there, and basically got the job and discovered that the corporate world was not for me, and I learned a lot about myself during this time period because basically, at first it seemed great because it was good money, it was a union job, and it seemed like a great transition after working all these years in the university world of making no money. So,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, because I was low man on the totem pole there and it was a union job, basically I got the worst shifts, meaning that I would work splits. I'd have to be there
Yeah.
9 in the morning till noon, and then I'd have the afternoon off, have to come back at night from 6 to 10, and that wasn't for me. So the only good news was we were allowed to trade these shifts, and so I managed to find people that would take my shifts and I would trade for their night shifts, and which is what I wanted. And everybody said, Mike, how do you get rid of your splits? We can't get rid of ours when we get scheduled them. How do you always get rid of them? And so basically, everybody said, you got to go into sales, Mike. Like, I mean, if you can get rid of these shifts, you can sell anything. And so
Mhm.
I decided, well, maybe there's something to that. And so I basically went and became a realtor, which, by the way, doesn't prepare you to be a real estate investor, which is what I later on went to become.
Right.
And uh, I loved that for the most part, and I found I was really good at it, resonated with me, and but after a while, I started to work with a lot of investors who wanted me to help them find deals, and that was kind of a transition for me because prior to that, I was helping people find principal residences, and the big difference between those two things is with principal residences, there's a lot of emotion involved. With the investment world, it's all about the numbers, and investors
Mhm.
are really big on numbers. So, to make a long story short, that led me on a whole different path. I decided I didn't want to become a lawyer anymore, and ever since then, I've been a real estate investor. So that's how I got on the path that I'm at right now. But there were a few bumps along the way, and as you know, I had a car accident at one point in my
Yeah.
life, and I went from being I was just starting to launch my real estate investment career. I started to finally make some money, and then somebody rear-ended me while I was driving, and for 8 months I basically spent pretty much in my bedroom. I never left the home. I went from being, very typically outgoing and always loving to be around people, and I basically went into a very depressed uh, phase where, I wouldn't leave my home, and I never really understood until relatively recently why this happened. I was thought, why did I have to go through why did this have to happen in
Yeah.
my life? And now I realize, as I'm going forward with some of my new projects that I want to launch, that this all happened. So one, I'd be more empathetic towards some of the people that are going through a similar feeling down from the recession. There's a lot of people who have lost a lot of material things. And I discovered more about myself during that 8 month period than probably any other point in my life. And so now I'm at a point where, I have the ability to give back and I want to help a lot of people. And I think having gone through that, it makes me a lot more empathetic towards a lot of people that are going through a lot of tough times right now.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for that honesty and going back into it. All of these experiences, and as I talk to more and more people, it seems that everybody has some sort of a turning point and time in their life where it could have been a very tragic experience to them or somebody that they know that forces them into looking at their life from a different perspective. That certainly was for you. And now let's talk about what it did, because you still continued with your real estate investment career and you're doing very well and you have lots of followers, in Canada and other places. But where are you going with the change, and what classes are you setting up now?
Well, basically, I will always continue with real estate. That
Right.
is one of my passions for sure. So that's never going to stop. And I also teach other people how to create passive income through real estate. However, I get a lot of people that come to me and they want me to mentor them. And the first thing they ask me is, okay, well, how do I get rich quick in real estate? And so I have to kind of set them on a different path and
Yeah.
give them a different mindset, because to me, real estate is great. It's not a get rich quick scheme, first of all.
No.
But second of all, the real benefit of doing things like real estate is that once you create that passive income, you don't necessarily have to work. And after a while, once you build it up. And so that gives you freedom. And it's what you do with that freedom that's going to determine whether you're happy or not. Because I know a lot of people that are multi-millionaires. They have all the money you could ever imagine. They have every material thing you could possibly want. And they're not happy, miserable. And so my message is really that it's what you do with that money and with your freedom that determines whether you're happy. And it's really about living your passion, living your dream, giving back, helping other people. And that's really my message. And some of the stuff that I've got going forward, for instance, I've got a book in the works right now, and at least at the present, entitled The Comeback. And it basically talks about not just the economy coming back. Everybody's expecting a real estate book from me, so there will be real estate. There's going to be a lot of my personal life sprinkled in there, and talking a lot about happiness, which is even more important to me. So basically talks about how people come back and how everything goes in cycles. And sometimes when you're near the bottom or you've hit bottom, you don't see that there's a way out. You don't see there's something worth living for. And I can tell you that after having hit bottom, when I bounced back, I hit new heights that I never even imagined, and things continue to grow. But it's a lot of it comes down to the fact that my mindset changed, and things that I thought were important to me when I was younger. For instance, I always wanted to make lots of money because I thought I had to have all the best toys, and I wanted to have the best stereo and the nicest TV and the fanciest car, and that at one point in my life was really important to me. And when I was younger, I basically traveled the world for 2 years, and I've been fortunate enough to have traveled the world several times since then. But the first time I did it, I had to put all my stuff in storage, and it seemed like a real hardship to me. It's like, how am I going to do without all these things for 2 years?
Yeah.
And but the ironic thing is, when I came back from my trip, none of that stuff was all that important to me anymore. I was in no hurry to go get the stuff out of storage. I didn't really miss it. And I realized the things that were important, the things that really were meaningful to me, were the people that I'd met along the way, the adventures that I had, and just seeing a different perspective on how the world works, and how there's a lot of people that are just grateful for what they have every day, just meeting their needs every single day. And they don't have the quote unquote, luxuries that we have here in North America. But the ironic thing is that, as I travel around, I do spend a lot of time both in Canada and the US. And in general, I'd say that North Americans are probably the least happy people on the planet that I've met. And yet we have the most material things. And so the message really of the book, and of some of the things that I've got going forward, is really, if you weren't really happy before when you had all your toys, and you're not happy now, maybe rebuild to something that that you're passionate about, and that does make you happy. And so that's really the message. And like I said, there's a whole lot of people that are feeling like they're down on their luck, and I think this is an opportunity. And one day maybe these people can look back at this, much the way I look back at my car accident now, and say, well, now I know why this happened. It was a message, and it's time to, it was a kind of a turning point, and something where I could change the path that I was on.
No, that's fascinating. And again, it has been, whether we're talking scientifically proven or not, that's up for a debate. But there has been a lot of research onto who are the happiest people in the world. And as my wife and I were visiting Netherlands, we did the research, and Netherlands, people from Denmark actually, are considered the most happiest people in the world, and that's for a number of years running. And you look at Denmark, and it's very pretty, but the weather is not that great. And they're still very happy, and they're not necessarily making the money that North Americans are making. Although, if you're looking at what they make per family, they're actually probably making a lot more as a medium income than we do in the North America. It just their priorities are different. They're looking at the quality of life versus the amount of work that they do in a different way than we do. And that's the question of where does the happiness come from?
Right, and I think Europeans in general, they have a slower pace of life, and it's not that they don't make it's not that they're by any means starving in most European countries. However, they have a much different pace, and they don't tend to fight the traffic, and they take afternoon breaks where they go and sit, and have coffee on patios, and we don't do that. We're just always run in traffic, and it's a whole different lifestyle. And I've been very fortunate that I get to make my own schedule, and I don't do meetings around rush hour, and I like to sleep in a little bit. I admit that, but I've purposely built my life to avoid as much stress as possible, and I'm a lot happier than when I used to have to work those split shifts at the phone company, and but once again, it's all in the mindset and really, taking time to enjoy the things that you're passionate about.
Wait a minute, you're a real estate investor and you're actually happy and you're avoiding stress? I thought being a real estate investor is all about stress.
Well, actually, a lot of people that I know that do similar work to what I do are very stressed and they're not very happy, and it's all how I've built my different teams, for example. So right now, as we're speaking, I have different teams working for me in different places, and they're doing the stuff that needs to be done. I do the stuff that I'm passionate about. So I love meeting people. I love networking. I love doing interviews. I love, there's certain parts that I absolutely love, and I do that every single day. And then there's parts that I don't like, and I find people where it's their passion to do that sort of thing. So that's basically what makes a big difference, is I don't try to do every part of the job. As a matter of fact, I do very few parts of the job. I'm not very good at a lot of things. I don't know how to work a screwdriver or a hammer, so I can't fix the homes, nor do I want to. It's not a really good use of my time. So for me, it's all about putting the things into my life every day that I enjoy doing. And I recommend that whether you don't have to be a real estate investor, it's whatever you do. If you're an entrepreneur of any kind, find the right people that love. I'll give you an example. I had a fund that basically took Canadian retirement money, and we'd use that to invest. And part of the job to get that fund set up was we need to make a bunch of spreadsheets and go deal with the IRS and the CRA, which is a Canadian version of the IRS, and securities commissions. And I would never in a million years have the desire to go meet with all these people to set that up. These are, government people don't think the same way entrepreneurs think. And so, but my business partner on that, he would come to me every day with these big 20-page spreadsheets, and he'd say, "Mike, I was up all night. I was so excited to make these spreadsheets. I want to show you." And to me, I wouldn't even know what the spreadsheets meant. And but if somebody told me in order to get this done, you'd have to make 20-page spreadsheets and go meet with the Securities Commission every day, it's like, no thanks. I'll go find another way to raise the money. But it was his passion. He loved it. And I love the fact that I didn't have to do it. So I got to do the things I'm good at. He got to do the things that he's good at and that he likes. And that made all the difference in the world. And so for any entrepreneur listening, when you're building your business, you don't have to do every part of the job. Find the right people for the different aspects of the job.
No, that's perfect. And that brings up a number of points as we're talking about, I know the main concept is money and happiness, but how do you define happiness? You found something that makes you money. You found something that is your passion. And then you're allowing other people and their passions to help you so you can continue being happy and continue making money. So it's not a very difficult formula, but it's a difficult formula to master for some folks because they think that it's mine, I can't trust anybody, I can't let anybody do that, and that deals with other core issues. So in order to be happy, you have to allow for things to happen. You have to release and you have to let others help you. And that's one of the core competencies, I bet.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, you obviously have to make sure you have the right people in place.
Yeah.
But once you do that, sometimes letting go of that control, that alone takes a whole lot of stress off of you. And I'll give you another example once again. When I was earlier on in my career, I used to do my own property management. And I used to do most of the properties, actually all the properties I owned were in my hometown of Calgary at one point. And then I started to invest in other places. And at that point, I had to get property managers to help me. And once I started to do that, at first I had to have control, and I tell them, okay, I want you to phone me, every day and give me an update on what's going on in all my properties. And basically, at some point I realized, every day I'm dealing with all these little tiny things. and it's taking up a lot of my time. If I were to
Hmm.
let go of that and let these guys, just give them a little bit of say in the matter and let them use their common sense, it makes a big difference. So, for example, now my policy to my property managers is, well, you know what, if a fridge breaks, there's
Right.
never going to be a day where I'm going to say the tenant doesn't need a fridge. So let's get somebody in there to fix it or
Yeah.
replace it. And
Hmm.
so, basically, I've eliminated hundreds of calls every week that I used to deal with, the things that I had no control over, couldn't change. And, it makes a big difference in how much time I have. And it hasn't really added a lot more to the expenses. I don't, if I started to see I was getting, buying an extra 800 fridges a year, well,
Yeah.
I start to ask a few questions, but that hasn't been the case. And so now it's freed me up to make one, more money because I can do more of the
Hmm.
business that I'm good at, and the parts that require me, but also to have more spare time to go, on a vacation, or to go meet more people, or do whatever it is that makes me happy every day.
Yeah. So again, we come to that point of do what makes you happy. And if that makes you happy, then you're going to want to do it. If you're going to want to do it, then you're going to attract all of the things into your life. And then we're getting into the esoteric parts of the law of attraction.
That's
But
right.
that's the way it works. The only way to be a professional into anything is to love what you do. And if you don't, you will never make it.
That's right. That's really
Yeah.
the key at the end of the day. And I know so many people that they go to whatever job it is. They say, well, the money's really good, so I can't leave it. Well, at the
Hmm.
end of the day, you only live once, and if your whole life
Yeah.
involves, if you're spending most of your day going doing something that you absolutely don't enjoy, and you're fighting traffic to get there, then fighting traffic to get home, that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, that's not sustainable. At least to me, I couldn't imagine doing that every day.
Right. So we're talking about you have a number of friends, and obviously you're doing very well. You have a number of friends and colleagues that are multimillionaires, and they're not happy. What in your mind are they doing that's not allowing them to be happy with that level of income?
Well, I think the biggest difference is I think a lot of people, they rely on toys to make them happy, and so
Right.
they're always buying something with that, hoping that's going to compensate for something lacking in their life. And for me, I guess I gave up the toys a long, long time ago, and people who know me know I travel tons, and I live out of a suitcase, and I've let go. I've become a minimalist, and gotten rid of. Although I have, the ability to buy whatever toys I want, there's nothing I really
Mhm.
crave. And so for me, it's just about doing what makes me happy every single day. I wake up, and I'm very go with the flow kind of guy. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I was at a seminar a couple of months ago, and it was the last day of the seminar. It was a Sunday, and people go, "Oh, are you flying home to Canada today?" I go, "No, I'm not actually." They go, "Oh, well, where are you going?" I go, "I'm not sure." They go, "What do you mean you're not sure?" It's like, well, I said, I have a couple of days where I can do whatever I want. I want to go see some sunshine. I want to be near a pool or the beach,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to book it in advance because wherever I go, if it's raining, I'm not going to enjoy it as much as if it's sunny. And so I booked it at the very,
Right.
very literally last second, and that makes me happy. But a lot of people don't. I mean, they either couldn't live that lifestyle, or maybe they, a lot of people. Obviously, if you have families and other people you have to
Yeah.
deal with, they don't always agree with your plan to do that sort of thing. But for me, I've got the freedom to do what I please, and I think that's really what makes a difference for me. Is I have the freedom. I've already figured myself out. I know what makes me tick. And I've
Hmm.
gotten rid of all the things that were stopping me from doing that. And mostly they were just material things. You become a slave to your toys. And so I think that's the thing that I notice the most in my friends that are unhappy is that they try to compensate for things with toys. And to me, that's a very short-term fix. And you always need a bigger, better toy to replace the last one because it's kind of like a drug, really. At the end of the day, you always need to have something
Yeah.
that to make you happy. And it's just not working for most people.
Okay, well, a few things to point out. Now that we're on video, I have to say that those people who are looking at the home that you're in, they would venture to say that you may not be a minimalist in that regard.
Well, actually, I'm not even at my own home right now. I'm actually
Oh, okay.
my marketing specialist. I'm at her home because I like her
Excellent.
nearby when I do these sort of things in case the technology isn't working. So she
Got it.
has backup computers and she knows how to work all this stuff. So
Perfect.
so I'm actually not in my home right now. So anything you see, I can't take. I don't even know anything you see here except for the shirt on my back. And
Well,
actually, I own the microphone and the computer. That's it.
excellent. Well, that's good to know. And again, the other point that you bring up that I wanted to come back to is that unlike your friends, and we're talking about toys, but I think the bigger thing is you figured out yourself and you're living in the present. You're not worried about the future. You're not functioning in the past. you're living in the right now. And everybody has to, well, I'm doing this tomorrow, I'm doing this on Friday, I have to go, go, go. You're not at that point, and that makes you happy. And that's a very important step. All the gurus, all the New Age thinking, everybody's telling you the same thing. You have to live in the present. And if you're taking care of what you need to take care of now, the present will take care of itself. Easier said than done for a lot of people, but you're doing it, and that's great to see.
Exactly. That's very, very true. And like I said, I'm very fortunate. I know not everybody can go do that, and it's not always because, it's often obviously you have spouses and kids, and my daughter's grown up, so I have certain things have happened over the years that have given me more freedom, and so I built up to this. I didn't just one day wake up and say, well, from now on I'm going to go with the flow and just do whatever I want every day when I wake up. But as my daughters, gotten older, and as I've gotten rid of more junk and met more and more people, and just a lot of great things have happened for me, and it's kind of funny because a few years ago I wouldn't have even discussed my previous depression.
Right.
That was something that was I would never. I speak on stage all over Canada and the U.S., and I would never ever mention that. And now I've started to mention it on purpose because all this time I didn't. I always thought, oh well, I'm kind of embarrassed about that. Now it's the opposite. I think how many people could I be helping if they saw where I came from and where I how far I've bounced from that point. And so that's basically why I'm here. I want to spread that word that this is all possible. It doesn't have to be the way I've done it. I'm not saying get rid of all your stuff, but for some people that might work if you have that option.
No, it's as the life coach in me is so thankful to you for saying all these things because you're living in the present. You figured out what you like. You're doing what you love in terms of your career. You're traveling. You are getting rid of toys and you're becoming a minimalist. And now you're actually accepting your past and you're allowing all of that to come through so you can help other people. The life coach in me thanks you for bringing all this up. I'm very happy to hear it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that you pointed that out. But that's really become my mission, and that was never my mission before. It was always, how can I do better with real estate? How can I accumulate more properties? And now my mission's become much more, how can I help more people? Not necessarily just with real estate, but any way I can help them improve their life and give them different, the right message and just let them know that there's hope, because I see so many people that are losing their homes right now and that they feel like they've got nothing left to live for. And I've seen so many, just so many people that are sad and they're just at their lowest point in their life. And I know that the economy is going to recover it's already happening. I already see real estate bouncing back. And there's so many people that just, if they hang in there and they change their mindset as they rebuild, they can just have a better future than if they tried to go back to what they were doing before. If that wasn't making them happy before, why try to rebuild to that? Why strive to get back to where they were?
Yeah, and I think real estate is a very nice example of how to live your life, because real estate is long term. And you see that long term there are cycles. Same thing in life. If one thing is up, it's going to be down, and then it's going to be up again. So no need to to use a Yiddish word schwitz all over it, because it's going to get better. I've noticed the same things in terms of real estate. All of a sudden, and I live in a very nice development in northwest suburbs in Chicago, and there were plenty of lots that were not built because these are very expensive homes. All of a sudden, these lots are starting to get built on. So we see that here in Chicagoland area, that real estate is going up. People should be doing better. That being said, again, they're going to your seminars and they're trying to make money because they think that that'll make them happy. And for a good part, to a certain solid base, it will answer a lot of questions. But does true happiness come from material possessions?
Well, I think it's a temporary happiness. It's one of those. It's just one of those things where you get. I mean, look at how many people buy a new car and it gets them excited, and then 2 weeks later, or as soon as the first thing goes wrong on that car, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need a new car. And people are very fickle, and they go through toys very quickly. And so for me, I can answer for myself. I can't say for everybody. Don't buy any toys. Some people. For me, I have no desire to own a boat, for example. If I want to go, I'd rather just fly somewhere, rent somebody else's boat, bring it back dirty, let them deal with cleaning it. I don't have to deal with it. That's for me. Now, if somebody, that's their passion every day, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a passion, absolutely. So everybody's different, but in general, I think you need to put things in perspective and don't rely on toys to make you happy. Rely on your mindset and your passions and what you're doing with your day every single day. what you're doing to get those toys. And if you're going to a 9 to 5 job that you hate, and then you're balancing it out by saying, oh, well, if I get this boat, then it was worth all those hours of trading my time for money. That's not
Right.
to me. That's not a good trade-off. If you're doing something you love every day and that's what you do in your spare time, great. I'm not criticizing anybody who does that, but I think people need to really put things in perspective. I think they need to make themselves happy every day, even when they can't be on their boat. Whatever you're doing for to create your living, and it's all about living your life on purpose. Really, is what it comes down to.
No, it's true. And again, toys are toys, and there's nothing wrong with them, just like there's nothing wrong with watching movies that make you happy. It's whatever is your passion, and know that what you're doing with your time, there is a limited amount of time that's there during each day. So if you want to spend it by watching a Cubs game, in my case, or as my wife suggests, just watch the highlight afterwards, that's my choice. But what else could I have done with that time? Same thing with the toys, and I agree with you completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we're closing down with this particular interview, I wanted to thank you. You're a very successful man. You're helping people find not just the real estate happiness, but you're starting to educate people from your own experiences that they can be happy without that wealth, without relying on that wealth to make them happy. Wealth is a separate part from happiness, and for that I wanted to thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Well, we'd love to have you on. And for those of you who are staying with us, please stay. We'll be right back after our commercial messages.